Once again, everyone, it is a truly pleasure to be here at ISOT 2025. Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspectives on gender equality in kidney transplantation in Asia. I have no conflict of interest to declare. However, I am currently affiliated with the organizations listed on this slide. My talk will be structured into 5 parts as outlined here. For this presentation, I used the Global Gender Gap Index, GGGI 2025, released by the World Economic Forum in June this year. This index has been published annually since 2006 and is widely recognized as a benchmark for measuring gender disparities across countries. According to the 2025 report, 69.8% of gender gap has been closed in Central Asia, 69% in East Asia, and 64.6% in South Asia. At the current pace, it will take about 138 years to close the gap in South Asia and 179 years in East Asia and the Pacific. Among 148 countries assessed, only 4 from Asia, New Zealand, Australia, Philippines, and Singapore ranked in the top 50 globally. South Korea ranked 101st, and India ranked 131st. The GGGI consists of 4 key dimensions: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. While the gaps in education and health are nearly closed, only 61% of the economic participation gap and just 23% of political empowerment gap has been closed worldwide. The cause of the economic gender gap have changed over time. In the 1950s, they were largely driven by social norms defining female job and limiting access to education. Later, childbearing responsibilities became the main factor affecting women's careers. And today, in high-income countries, political empowerment remains the key challenge in achieving full gender equality. This critical aspect has already been well discussed by previous speakers in the earlier sessions. Now, Now, let's begin with gender equality, the pattern observed in living kidney donation across Asia. Globally, there is a clear donor-recipient paradox. Women are the majority of living kidney donors, while men are the majority of recipients. Thank you so much. When analyzed by region, this gap becomes even more pronounced, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Southeast Asian region. Inspired by Women in Transplantation with TTS, the Asian Society of Transplantation launched with Asia in 2019. In 2021, we held a virtual meeting on gender disparity in access to kidney donation and transplantation in Asia to highlight persistent inequalities. 14 speakers from 13 countries presented gender-related data, mostly from national registries and center-level studies spanning 3 decades. Our findings showed that female living kidney donors ranged from 30 to 78%, and in nearly all countries, women outnumbered men, except in the Philippines, Hong Kong, and Pakistan. In several countries, such as Bangladesh, India, and Singapore, over 60% of all living donors were women. To better understand these gender disparities, we developed Astrac with Katie, a collaborative platform built on Astrac, the Asian Transplantation Registry, which is based on KOTRI, the Korean Transplantation Database, which allows real-time visualization of data in kidney transplantation. Currently, 11 Asian countries are participating in this web-based multinational study. From 2015 to 24, our data showed that women remain the majority of living kidney donors in most countries. So, why do women donate kidneys more than men? The reasons fall into two main categories, biological and social. Socially, traditional gender role, financial constraints, and power imbalance within families often plays role. Biologically, men are less frequently accepted as donors because they have higher rates of diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. This is consistent with Korean data, which show that these non-communicable diseases have remained more common in men over the past decades. Another explanation is the high frequency of wives to husband kidney donations. In Japan, Professor Nagakawa reported a sharp rise in female donation after 40. In Korea, this spousal donor group, shown by the blue line here, represents the highest category among all living kidney donors. Across Asia, wives donating to husband accounts for 64% to nearly 100% of all spousal donors, regardless of GGGI or Human Development Index levels. Interestingly, the Philippines and Mongolia, where the gender gap index exceeds 0.7, the proportion of female donors is low, below 50%. Although the number are very small, with KT data showed a strong negative correlation between the two variables, percent female donor and global gender gap index. We further analyzed GODT data 2024, comparing the percentage of female living kidney donors with HDI and GGGI across Asia. From 19 Asian countries data available, no significant correlation was found with either index, and none of the 4 GGGI sub-indexes showed a negative association. Nevertheless, during the 2021 WIT Asia webinar, participants agreed that social factors, rather than biological ones, remain the main drivers of gender inequality in kidney donation. Key solutions may include it for promoting gender equality through education, ensuring independent donor advocacy, reducing financial barriers, supporting work-life balance and equal pay, strengthening women's role in decision-making. And a more robust study is needed to clarify how social factors influence female kidney donation. One possible approach is to examine vulnerability in living kidney donation, reasons beyond the simple economic and gender indices. There are 6 common stages that can lead to donor vulnerability: limited understanding or communication, partial decision-making capacity, inability to protect yourself, pressure from urgent medical needs, weak legal or social safeguards, and the lack of medical or follow-up support. Together, these reflect how both individual and the systemic gap creates risk. A key reference is Ross' 2018 study on vulnerability, which defined 8 domains among prisoners: cognitive, legal, differential, social, medical, situational, allocational, and infrastructural. Together with the Vital Link team in Korea, we adopted and expanded this concept to focus on living kidney donors, covering the economic gender gap, which have changed over time. Modified framework proposes 8 elements. Cognitive, can she fully understand and decide to participate? Juridic, is she under the control or influence of others? Psychological, does emotional pressure limit her ability to refuse? Sociocultural, does she belong to a marginalized group? Situational, is she pressured by the recipient's medical urgency? Allocational, is she motivated by access to social goods or recognition? Health-related, does the health system lack fairness, trust, or follow-up? Financial, is she facing economic hardship or lacking support? Together, these elements help us recognize when a living female donor may be at risk of exploitation or unequal protection. However, understanding vulnerability requires a broad social framework, one that reflects the cultural and structural factors shaping donor decisions. In Asia, caregiving expectations often fall on women, blurring the line between responsibility and vulnerability. Moreover, women's thoughts and emotions are not often openly expressed. Recognizing and protecting these unspoken feelings remains a major challenge in our region. To illustrate this, let me show a famous Korean painting titled "Lovers Under the Moon." Do we truly know what this lady feels? Perhaps not. The artist revealed her hidden emotion only through the subtle turn of her tiny right shoe pointing away from her partner. So I warmly invite your insights to refine these vulnerability elements and guide future research and assessment. Next, I will briefly discuss gender inequality among kidney transplant recipients. As shown in the previous slide, no country has more than 50% female kidney transplant recipients. The proportion is even lower in Eastern Mediterranean and Southeast Asia. And women remain fewer among deceased donor recipients too, with a large country difference. Our RIT-CATA database shows a similar pattern, but with some encouraging trends. In Indonesia, Philippines, Bangladesh, and India, the proportion of female living recipients has been steadily increasing. Biologically, women progress to ESRD more slowly and are often older, frailer, or hypersensitized, limiting the transplant eligibility. Yet, to explain regional and country variations, we need to stage-by-stage analysis as Piccoli suggested. Although CKD is more common in women, treated ESRD remains higher in men. In most Asian countries, fewer women are listed for transplant, and women on dialysis make up less than half, except in Bangladesh. So, despite more women having CKD, their proportion decreases with each stage to 40 to 46% on dialysis, around 40% on the waiting list, and only 37 to 39% among kidney recipients. This pattern is clearly seen in Korean National Registry data. So I invite you to join us in developing evidence-based solutions for equal rights and equal contribution in organ transplantation. Ultimately, our progress in transplantation becomes truly meaningful only when we reduce inequality of gender, access, and opportunity at every stage of care. My sincere thanks to all the colleagues, especially Kintida Twin, Yonghun Kim, and the WIT leaders. I also thank the organizers and chairs for this wonderful opportunity, and all of you here today. Thank you very much for listening.